Hey, everybody.
Hi.
What's going on?
Here we are after another hour or so of chit-chatting. Chit-chatting away, talking about how geese are dangerous and all of the things.
Makes it sound so interesting. Our conversations are great.
Riveting.
Riveting material.
Yeah. So, Heath, you were in New York this last week.
I was in New York, yeah.
Can you give us just a brief update of who you saw out in the wild?
I did see Andy Cohen having dinner outside.
I mean, that's all you need to say right there.
And you restrained yourself from following Andy Cohen anywhere.
I did do that.
Good job.
I think, you know, I mean, wouldn't say Andy Cohen owes me a thank you, but
I think he does.
He does.
I think he absolutely does.
Who was he with? Anyone you knew?
the actor's name was John Benjamin Hickey, who's been on Andy's show a couple times, and he's been was he on the Big C or the C Word? Is that what
They're
it
like
was?
really
on something.
good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in his, I mean, this is admitting that I've read all of the books that Andy Cohen's wrote, but
Okay.
they're really good. Like they hang out all the time.
Yeah.
You know who I heard are really good friends is Alexander Skarsgård and Jack McBrayer.
Oh yeah, I've heard that too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting to me. So then, because I was watching an interview with Alexander Skarsgård and they were talking about it. So then I started looking up pictures and it's adorable as hell.
Oh.
These pictures together.
I think he brings Jack McBrayer to like premieres and stuff
Yes.
and they get their photo taken on the red carpet.
Holding hands,
sometimes.
doing
Yeah.
prom pictures.
Okay.
It's
I love
great.
that.
Yes.
I love that. That's great.
Well, that's great. It sounds like a New York trip well done since you saw that.
Yeah, I saw it. I rode the subway. I went to the Met. Got my photo taken outside an Olive Garden in Times Square.
You did? Seriously? You didn't eat? Oh my God, how did we forget? You should have eaten.
That was your dream.
We had joked about it. Michael and I had joked about it. And I was just like, it's going to be funny until we're sitting in the Olive Garden in Times Square. Then it's not going to be that funny
And then
anymore.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But taking a picture is great.
That's perfect.
We got some weird looks from people since I'm posing outside the Olive Garden. I'm just like, calm down.
Listen, I'm podcast king, okay? And this was my dream.
Also, this is not the first time someone's posed outside an Olive Garden. So everyone just, keep your gasps.
Oh my God, I can't believe we didn't ask him.
That's
I forgot
insane.
that was his dream.
What are we doing?
We're terrible friends.
What are we up to?
Jesus, sorry, Heath.
Yeah, that's sorry. We should have gone through
better.
our...
Yeah.
Did he say do better?
We'll try.
That's a better way to accept an apology.
It is,
Don't
yeah,
want to
do
accept.
better.
Yeah, okay, but do better.
better.
Just do
Yeah.
better. Yeah, do
Yeah.
better. Absolutely.
Who wants to go first? One of you guys has some burning gall that you need to get rid of.
I can't think of anything yet. So Aaron, go first.
I got it. I can do it.
Okay,
I can
we'll
do
start
it.
with Amy.
This is, I was going to say, this is live TV. It's not live.
It's live.
It's not TV. It's kind of live.
Podcasting,
Yeah, we're recording
which I can
live.
then edit, but
Yeah.
no, it's live.
It's not
totally
live and it's not TV, but it's live TV.
My gall is corporate exit interviews or the lack thereof.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, lack thereof.
Lack thereof. So I quit my longtime communications job, and my last day was on Friday. And that is a cause for celebration. Just so we're
Across
clear.
the land.
So we're clear. It's not a
Across the
Yes.
land celebration.
And I did it partly because I'm burned out, partly because I want to change careers, all of that kind of stuff. I'm going to take some time, decompress, explore. I redid this entire office.
It's glorious.
As you can see.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's like I've never been in this room before.
That's kind of true. It does feel that way. Yeah.
See, you come back from New York and everything's different.
I know.
You're looking at it with new
I
eyes.
think I flew through a time warp.
But I also quit partly because of corporate bullshit. And the latest was they moved my manager of 7 years to another team. It's like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. So, anyone who's worked in a job a long time, you got complaints over the years. You build them up, but you can deal with them. It's fine, especially when they give you monies and they give you benefits. And, sometimes the monies and the benefits can help deal with those annoyances and things. But it finally got too much. So I kind of wanted a chance to say how mismanagement, stupid decisions resulted in losing me because I've been working for 13 years there. But the only option they gave me was a video call with an HR person. No, I can't do a call for multiple reasons. One, I hate calls. Two, I would lose my nerve to be able to say some of the things in person, right? And three, it's just a random HR person. You're not involved. You don't know any of the people I'm talking about. Like, that just feels like that's not going to be helpful. So I said, okay, no, that's not going to work. And they said, well, you can do a survey. Fine, whatever. And they never sent me the survey. And, it's obvious they don't care. One of the many reasons I left. What sucks is they're never going to understand it or internalize why I'm leaving or why so many other people are leaving. And I thought about writing an email to one leader in particular, but then I was like, first off, I'm going to burn so many bridges. Second, he's not going to.
When you said first off, I thought you were going to recite it to us. Like, first of all, bitch.
First off, bitch.
So I'm going to take this moment and share it on this platform.
That's how I would have started it. Hey, Will, first off, bitch. Yeah. So obviously, it's just all the gall. Because even if I did write this person who made these decisions a note and say, like, we are all just names on an org chart that you're just moving around willy-nilly and, you're preaching that employees should feel belonging and, all that kind of stuff and none of it's happening, he would never listen. He would never care. Mm-hmm. So it's just all the gall of corporate bullshit and the fact that I never even got an opportunity to just file a survey that they would never even look at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So peace out.
Peace out.
And I'll express my dismay here instead.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is
my
platform.
exit interview.
Yeah,
I hope
exactly.
It was therapeutic.
Thanks for listening, Will. Glad you tuned in today. And that special invite we sent. This is how a real podcast is done, Will.
Yeah. Anyway, corporate America sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
What's your goal, Erin?
Well, mine's a little less personal.
Okay.
A little less like, soul killing, but
Sure.
nonetheless, I'm frustrated. So there are a couple things that I do on social media that are purely for my entertainment. I don't participate in them. So this is a little bit probably not right for me to say I would like this to be different because I'm not participating in it. But I'm in a few food review groups, like where they review restaurants. And sometimes it'll explode in the most spectacular way. Like something will just go nuts and it hits a trigger and there's 75,000 comments. Here's where I'm at with the food reviews. One, I think that there should be a little bit more responsibility on the part of the reviewer. I need a little bit more of what you actually did to solve the problem, before, especially with new restaurants, before you completely tear them down in a Facebook post.
So these are very negative reviews.
Yes,
okay.
Which that's fine. There's a place for that. And if that happened to you, that's fine. That's what these are for. What I'm looking for is like, I picked up my food and it was cold. And then everybody comments on it. No, I need more than that. Like, did you talk to someone? Were they mean back? Did they, tell me the process. Explain more about it.
Because the cold thing can happen for many reasons.
Exactly. Some out of their control, some of those things. That's fine. Or like when you say you ordered something and you didn't like it. Well, that's not entirely like a restaurant problem
That's
necessarily,
your problem.
unless you tell me more. Like, I'm a connoisseur of this dish. I've had it everywhere, and it just doesn't hit, But you'd tell me like, hey, I tried a mushroom burger, and turns out I don't like mushrooms. Isn't really a thing for the restaurant to deal with.
Fault.
Yeah. Okay.
Dumb.
Second thing, and I struggle to say this because it's where some of the best drama comes, but I think there needs to be a little bit more thought into the responses to said review.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because one I saw this week, this is what I mean. This is the one that really got me. Someone posted what was objectively burnt. Like the sandwich was burnt. And it had been delivered burnt side down. So the top of the sandwich looked amazing. Flipped over. And it was like, there's no way coming back from that. That's like burnt. That's
Charred?
not just like toasty. That's like black.
Okay.
And someone's response in the comments were, I think you're overreacting. You could have just scraped that off.
Wow, now we're just starting fights.
Yeah, and it did start a fight. And in my head, I'm like, that's not even a constructive comment.
No.
Because, again, we're talking about like, you could maybe say that to your 9-year-old when you burn the toast on the way to school and you're like, scrape it off. We don't have time. But like if you go to a restaurant and you order and all that stuff, I can understand saying, hey, this seems a little. And the post had gone on to explain that they tried to say, hey, can I? And the restaurant just doubled down and said that's the way the sandwich is served. And so I was like, that's a legitimate complaint
yeah,
review,
yeah.
right?
Right.
Your comment's not, which just spurred so many more comments.
Oh boy.
Which normally I love, but I also was like, I don't want to read 20,000 comments about whether or not you can scrape. That's what it became.
Right.
It was a discourse about whether or not you can
Oh my
still
gosh.
taste burnt stuff when you scrape off the burnt parts.
I really hate people sometimes.
I was like, you've ruined what this is. You've ruined the
Yeah.
essence. It's not giving me the joy. I just need us to get back to the original.
Well, also, it speaks to like that person just did. You don't have to put everything you think on social media.
Yes,
like you could very much have thought you could have just scraped that off and then just moved on with your day.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have to post that.
Yeah.
and, you know.
Yeah. And also, I think, people forget when they're on there that reviews they're not objective. They're subjective. So like some, maybe you don't mind burnt stuff and you're willing to scrape stuff off. Maybe someone else isn't. Neither one of those are really helpful in terms of what we're doing here. I like the ones that are actually like, this is step by step what I did.
Right.
This is step by step what she said. And then people pile on, are like, guess what experience I had there? I found a, human leg out back or whatever. And like, that's the stuff I'm here for.
There are a lot of human legs showing up in
I
the back
think-
of restaurants.
yes. I mean, you can't believe what's on this, especially this particular group.
Okay.
Which I know some people that listen are also a part of that group.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
For purely entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes you'll get a random one. The one I'm thinking of that was like a bakery one, and they just were so pissed because they asked for an assorted dozen cupcakes and didn't like the flavors that came in the assorted dozen.
That's on you, sir.
And
That's...
the main complaint was that one of the flavors was carrot cake. And they thought that that's absurd. There is no mixed dozen that comes with carrot cake. And everyone was like, that's a pretty common bakery cake flavor. Like, yeah that's going to be included in a dozen cupcakes.
Right. And then when the word assorted is in the name,
Yep.
that's part of an assortment.
Yeah. And then all these
Otherwise-
other people were like, I've had that carrot cake there and it is the best cake you'll ever. That's the kind of stuff. Yeah, let's fight over carrot cake. I'm here for
Yeah.
it. I guess,
Wow.
to quote Heath, do better.
Do better.
Do better with the
Internet.
reviews and comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It also feels like some of these people are the kind, like Travis said, to complain about the chip dip at an orgy.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. You're focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we've used that phrase before, and I don't want chip dip at an orgy. I don't want it to be
No,
anywhere
I don't-
near.
I don't want any foods at an orgy.
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't ever want to
Yeah.
be non-clothed eating chip dip. I just feel like that. I'm in a weird place.
It does feel. Yeah.
Yeah. It
Mm-mm.
feels.
You got to put clothes on to eat. That's
even just a nightgown.
Yeah.
Just some protective layer between you and your
I'd
skin.
like to see you bring your jammy jams to the orgy.
I heard there's chip dip. That's the only reason I came, because I love a chip dip, but yeah. I need it protected from things.
What about you, Heath? Did you think of one?
I think I did think of one.
Okay,
I think
excellent.
it is the general idea of the whole like self-checkout of everything now,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed when we were in New York, there's very little self-checkout outside of the
Really?
airport. Like, I mean, and we went to a Walgreens to get some stuff just to have at the hotel room, just, stuff to drink, water, whatever. And it was funny, the stuff that was locked up, like you could not, so you had to have somebody come and unlock the cooler that had beer in it. Like if we would have bought beer, like, baby formula was all locked up,
Oh.
And in Iowa, everywhere you go, they're just like self-checkout, self-checkout,
Yeah.
self-checkout. But the only place really in New York was at the airport. And I had to go and do the self-check-in thing, kiosk, whatever, and then you have to wait to go and give them your bag. And they were bitching at me that I put the stickers on my bag wrong, where it should be. I'm like, listen, ma'am, I don't do this for a living. Like, if you're giving me the, telling me to do it myself, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. And if you don't like the way I do it, then have somebody do it for me.
Was there an explicit illustration of where I'm supposed to put me? Because you walk me through everything at the airport. I mean, they act like you're dumb. So
Yes.
if you're not
Yeah.
telling me
Yeah.
where to put the stickers, then
I'm
That's
gonna put
on
them
you.
where I want.
I'd get your marketing team on that.
Right. Yeah, draw an infographic.
Yeah.
Do a diagram.
Yeah.
Something.
Anything.
No, yeah. So yeah, just if you want me to, if you were putting me in charge of self checkout and self check in and self stuff, then I'm going to do it the way myself knows how to do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't like that, then do it yourself.
I'm gonna
I think
honor
in-
myself.
It also was the day we flew out was the first day that they were doing the Real ID was required.
Oh no.
And we didn't see anything at Des Moines Airport that was too messed up. They had extra TSA people at well ahead of security and telling people like, you need the Real ID. If you don't have it, you need your passport. If you don't have those things, there's no point in going up here.
Ooh,
So,
were there people pissed off?
We didn't see anybody pissed off, but I think we left in the morning, but it was sort of after the big initial wave of flights that all go out at 6 a.m. It was a little bit later than that. So I think there weren't as many people around, but we did, when we go up the escalator and get to security, and we were talking about it. We get to the top of the escalator, and there's a news crew from one of the local channels.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, these fuckers, what are they doing up here? Nobody wants to talk about this with them.
No.
I don't know. I might have been on TV, because the security line was behind them. That was in the background of the shot. So
We've been meaning to tell you. We saw you.
Did you?
Yeah, we did.
But I could imagine there are some Iowans that would show up pissed, and then they would see the news crew and be like, yes, I get to give my review of the Real ID.
Yeah.
This is bullshit. This is America.
Thanks, Obama.
This is something that is I don't know, quirk feels too nice of my husband's, but every once in a while when he gets really fired up about something, he'll end it, he goes on a little rant, and then he'll end it with, I should just call the news crew, people need to know about this every time. And I'm like, every one of those scenarios I play out and think, how would that work?
Yeah.
You think that they're interested in a lot of things they just aren't.
No.
He's right in generally, the things that he gets worked up about are things that would be better if you did it a different way, or hey, maybe we should work on these traffic lights so they aren't all red all the way through the city of Norwalk in the morning, whatever, objectively, but also they don't care, honey. That's sweet that you think you're gonna call up Channel 8 and they're gonna be like, oh shit, we're on our way.
Channel 5 might.
I was going to say,
You could probably call Channel 5.
it feels like
true.
sometimes local news is like, we'll do it. We'll do it.
We'll do the whole
anything.
story.
Yeah.
And I was like, also, have you noticed that the local people a lot of times that have a cause seem slightly unhinged?
Yeah.
Is
You're going to be that guy.
You're going to be that guy because you're going to sense that you're losing them and you're going to amp up your crazy a little bit, and we're going to be in trouble. Okay.
Is it bad to kind of want Mike to call him?
No, I have thought that
okay.
before. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think he would absolutely lose steam in front of a camera, though. He'd be like, I just think it would work better. And it would just be like a deadpan face and him staring off, realizing his mistake, being like, I don't know how to stop this.
Oh, this was a bad move. Yeah.
Just an idea. Just wanders back inside.
I can see that happening too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, before we get into our discussion of 1987, which is what we are discussing this episode. I think the first 1987 episode was one of my favorites.
It's a classic.
It was really, really good. So here's what we talked about. I mentioned the brain on drugs PSA, and we really took a deep dive into that weirdness. I talked about Def Leppard's Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Also a classic.
Yep. And I talked about Jim Baker and Tammy Faye and Jim Baker's downfall. Aaron, you talked about baby Jessica falling down a well.
I really remember that so well.
And then kids everywhere just afraid of wells.
You were just going to happen upon them all the time.
You talked about Valerie Harper getting kicked off her own show.
That's some unmitigated gall.
That is some gall.
That's some bullshit.
And then you talked about the Golden Gate Bridge Party. And there's still so many times where I'll think of Heath being like, just running through. It's the bridge party, everybody, let's go!
Ain't no party like a bridge party.
Heath, you brought us The Glory of Mannequin.
Oh, yeah. That documentary.
Finely crafted piece of cinema.
You also brought us a music roundup that included I Want to Dance with Somebody, Open Your Heart, I Want Your Sex, and Alone by Heart.
Well,
excellent songs. And then you brought us Jaws, The Revenge, in which we discovered that sharks can break into travel agents' office and follow ladies trying to get their groove back all the way down to the Caribbean.
It's that's just a whole new level of shark intelligence
Yeah.
that I didn't know existed.
And also in that episode, your gall was the DNR of Idaho.
Oh yeah, they found a shark and they were just like, oh, it must have been an accident. It's like, no.
No, that you need to investigate that fully.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I remember being still kind of alarmed by
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So,
Mhm.
well, and now in our current administration, I mean, there's no shark investigations happening.
God,
They're just
no.
letting sharks go willy-nilly.
Mhm.
Do they even believe in sharks, or have
Probably
they decided
not.
that these crafts didn't make no sharks?
Yeah, that's
Well,
that's
I mean,
probably
he thinks Mattel is the country.
true. Yeah. I mean, we're dealing with. Did you guys see? There
He
was a
also
clip on Comedy Central of RFK and his family, like
Swimming in
in a sewage
Su-
runoff,
yeah,
Oh, Jesus.
and he
And he
just
was swimming
completely
in
submerged himself. Yeah, he was in jeans first
and
of
his
all.
baby grandkids just dunking him into this.
And people
Yeah.
are like, "There's signs right there that say don't swim in this."
Yeah. So that's the level of where we're at now.
He also, I don't know if you noticed in the clip this week, said no one should be taking health advice from me. And we're like, do you know your job title? Also this week, Trump said he invented the word equalizer.
Oh, that's fun for
And
him.
I was like, that's a word for quite some time.
Yeah.
That is quite some
I mean,
time.
there's multiple movies called that
Yeah.
before your
There
time.
was, a TV series
There's a
called
TV
The
series,
Equalizer.
Queen Latifah.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we're going to equalize, it's going to equalize it. It's a great word. Just came up with that. It's going to be really popular. We're going to equalize it. And I was like, that's not a new word.
It's good fun times in America right now.
It's so great.
Yeah. How about we go back to 1987?
I think we shall.
And I want to tell you about this was the year of so many movies I mean, every year is a lot of movies, but when I was looking at the list of movies, I realized I had that on VHS, I had that on VHS. One of those inexplicably, considering it talks about corporate life and I was only 10, was The Secret of My Success.
Uh-huh.
What? I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to bet you $10,000 that this does not hold up well on reviewing.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably the part where his aunt tries to get him in bed.
That's the one. That's the one. Okay, so picture Michael J. Fox is still white hot from Back to the Future. And Family Ties, just white hot.
A star never burned brighter.
Never. He is a tiny, funny, cute man that everyone loves. So he's a big draw for this.
Okay.
All right. He plays Brantley Foster
No, I hate the name.
from Kansas. And at the very beginning, he's in a cornfield with his pop. And he's talking about how now he's graduated college, he's moving to NYC. And remember how he talked about how the world views Iowa, especially during election season? This is what we're talking about. Like
Okay.
everyone's in overalls, he's in cornfields. He's like, I'm going to go to the big city. So he does, because he has an entry-level job as a financier. But when he gets there, the company has been taken over by a rival corporation. So they're like, nope, sorry, no job for you.
Shit.
So now he's in New York, and he can't find another job because he has no experience. But he has a distant relative, Uncle Howard Prescott, and he reaches out because Uncle Howard is the CEO of Penrose Corporation, which was founded by Howard's father-in-law, and now he's the CEO.
Okay.
Brantley's put in the mailroom because he's like, you gotta work your way up, you gotta pull yourself up by your bootstraps, all of that shit, right? Okay. But Brantley's a go-getter, so he starts reading the mail between people. Yeah.
So federal offense, I think.
Well, not when you're white hot.
No, not when you're white hot. Yeah. And by doing so, he finds out that Uncle Howard and most of the fellow suits are making real bad decisions. Because this is a 22-year-old
Because they're just
straight out of
documented
college.
in letters in the mail.
Yep, and he's straight out of college and he knows better.
Yeah.
So,
I love
He
the idea
noticed-
that they're just transcribing letters to their secretaries that are like, fuck that. Make sure and fire everyone.
Yep.
And then they just send it in the mail to each
send
other.
it in the
Yeah.
mail. Yep, memos, and he's reading them all.
Mm.
So in the midst of this and feeling real good about himself and better than everyone, he notices an empty office in the building. So he creates and assumes the identity of Carlton Whitfield, a new executive. He just sets up shop in this office and pretends to be a new exec.
No.
So then we
it's
get
his uncle's company. Like, ostensibly, his uncle knows who he is, right?
yes, this is a big company, so
Okay, okay.
Uncle Howard's not always around. Apparently,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
All right.
So then we get all sorts of switcheroo comedy because he keeps changing clothes in the elevator between his suit for Carlton and his mailroom clothes, which is casual, I guess.
Okay.
During this time, he gets tasked by the mailroom to drive a lady home in a company limo. And that's when he meets Vera, a randy lady who gets a tiny crumb of a compliment from white hot Brantley and becomes obsessed. And she seduces him.
Oh, no.
And then she admits that after she did it, it was in part to punish her husband for having an affair. And then someone drives up to this big house that they're in. And from the window, Brantley sees it's Uncle Howard.
Oh, no. Did he actually sleep with her?
Yeah. So Brantley changes as fast as he can and escapes the mansion without being spotted by Howard. Meanwhile, Vera's laughing. Oh, I guess I'm Auntie Vera. And yeah, so that all happens.
Huh.
Howard, Uncle Howard, we see, is actually having an affair with Christy Wills, who is Helen Slater. A financial wizard straight out of college. So, of course, we got creepy CEO guy and, white hot Helen Slater.
Equal opportunity white hotness.
Uncle Howard asks her to spy on this new guy, Carlton, because he's never met this guy. He keeps hearing about him, but he's never sees him because, Michael J. Fox is in and out to do escaping Uncle Howard. Uncle Howard assumes that this guy is a spy for Donald Davenport, another CEO.
Donald
I know.
Davenport.
But Christy's like, sure, I'll do it because you basically have my career in your hands and I've been fucking you. But then she and Carlton fall in love.
Oh, no.
One reason they're age appropriate for each other.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
And they've both been having affairs with the same married couple.
Exactly.
So they could talk about that.
That's true. That's
some
true.
sort of. Meanwhile, Davenport is preparing a hostile takeover.
Oh.
And Uncle Howard is secretly prepping the execs, saying like, all right, this is going to happen. So we're going to get you tons of bonuses. We're going to lay off everyone else, but you're going to be fine. You're going to be safe. So of course, there's a party at Uncle Howard's house with all the leaders, and Brantley shows up and he keeps pretending to be Carlton and then escaping from one room to another. Again, switcheroo comedy.
Yeah.
Of course, his identity is found out at this party because everyone's staying overnight. And then there's, Vera is trying to get Brantley in bed and Uncle Howard's trying to get Christy in bed. And it's just a whole situation.
Jeez, guys, put it away for the night. We're having a party. Jeepers.
Brantley gets fired from both of his jobs, mailroom and Carlton Whitfield. And so does Christy for refusing to continue her affair. So this isn't great.
No.
Vera decides to divorce Howard since she found out about his affair. And apparently Uncle Howard had planned to propose to her too, even though he was already married. So that's cool. But Christy and Brantley come up with a revenge plan together with Vera.
Oh, Vera.
They raise enough cash through a bunch of shady businessmen to take control of the Penrose Corporation. And Vera, because it was her dad who found this company, gets to emasculate Uncle Howard in front of a bunch of executives saying like, you sure ran Daddy's company into the ground, so I'm going to take over now. And she controls all the stock now. And she puts Brantley and Christy in charge.
And they kill it.
And they're off in the sunset in corporate heaven together, running this company at age 22, apparently. So
the takeaway is having sex with your boss works out.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure does.
Okay.
Your boss or the boss's wife, someone up there. Sleep your way to the top.
You might get a
babies.
company.
Yeah. So Roger Ebert said, the secret of my success seems trapped in some kind of time warp, as if the screenplay had been in a drawer since the 1950s and nobody bothered to update it.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
Gene Siskel said the film is staggeringly bad
Oh, God.
and devoid of both laughs and excitement.
Well, he didn't like Robin Hood, so.
Yeah.
Right. He further said it had no moral values,
Oh, God.
criticizing Michael J.
supposed to?
Fox's character as climbing the corporate ladder while offering no insight or commentary on the business world or the company's ethics. We get it, Gene. I mean, the message comes across, dude.
This is why you're not getting invited to parties.
I know. You're not coming to the orgy,
a
Gene.
movie's just a movie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. However, the New York Times reporter said it was close to inspired when the ambitious Brantley finds himself leading two lives.
Close to inspired.
Close.
Not quite.
Close.
Not
Not
quite.
quite,
It
but
was
it's close to inspired.
However, audiences didn't disagree because it was the seventh highest grossing film in the U.S. in
Yep.
1987.
It tracks.
So when I mentioned this, you perked up. So you must have seen it a lot too.
I
Just
watched
like
it a lot on cable
me
TV.
too. It was
yeah.
on all
Uh-huh.
the time.
And this is, I don't think they wrote the song for this movie, but this is the one that had Walking on Sunshine, right? Katrina
It
and the
sure
Waves.
did, yes. During one of his switcheroos.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, And every once in a while I'll think of Secret of My Sixes is I'm living. It's not a good song.
It was a very, like, whitewashed idea of, like, rising up in corporate America and getting, going after what you want, not taking no for an answer and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like based on the way this company's run, I feel like the mailroom employees are probably treated poorly,
Yeah.
So,
And even, at 10 years old, I realized this is fucked up. Like, I don't, none of this going on is attracting me to corporate America. And I should have heard that lesson.
I like that you picked it for this week when you were like, and I'm out.
Yeah. And that moment when we find out, oh, it's Auntie Vera. So it was played for laughs. It wasn't played for grossness or anything.
Right.
So that's fun.
That's something.
it's really not that different of a movie from Working Girl. It's kind of the same. I mean,
Yeah. You're right.
It portrays the corporate world in a similar way. Like, you just people assuming identities and
Yes.
like, everyone who runs stuff is evil and dumb.
Because you're just a name and a number.
Mhm.
Accurate. All right, what do you got, Erin?
Well, last time we talked about 1987, we talked about baby Jessica.
Sure did.
But this time I'd like to talk about baby M.
Oh.
This baby was born on March 27th, 1986. But what the real problem is that this turned into a huge custody battle because it was one of the first cases of surrogacy in the United States. So William Stern had entered into a surrogacy agreement with Mary Beth Whitehead, arranged by the Infertility Center of New York, which was opened in 1981 by a Michigan attorney. According to the agreement, Mary Beth Whitehead would be inseminated with William Stern's sperm. So this would make her like a traditional surrogate as opposed to a gestational surrogate where they'll carry the they fertilize the egg outside and implant it for the person to carry. She would bring the pregnancy to term and relinquish her parental rights in favor of William's wife, Elizabeth, because obviously he would already have parental rights. She would give hers up. Elizabeth would adopt the baby, and all would be fine.
Ooh, this is still a little dicey.
Oh, it's super dicey, yeah. So Mary Beth initially did relinquish the child to the Sterns per the contract, but returned the next day and threatened to kill herself if she could not see the infant.
So she went to their house and was,
Yeah. The Sterns, who did not want to risk Mary Beth's life, agreed to let her see the baby for an additional day or two. Now, this is the part of the story where I had to read a couple times because I was like, I guess I would say, like, you could come to my house and see the baby, but they went and let her take the baby.
They let her take the baby?
Or for 1 or 2 days.
Oh, no.
So then what happened, as a shock to no one, is that she and her husband, Mary Beth and her husband, kidnapped baby M for 87 days.
Oh, no.
So the Sterns obviously turned to the courts. And they said, the child had to be returned to New Jersey where the matter would be discussed in court. And temporary custody was awarded to the Sterns. And so, but then what went on from there was a crazy legal battle. So when the court said, yes, custody remains with the Sterns, they still gave Mary Beth visitation.
Come on, you guys.
Right. So then that created a problem. So they went back to court and a judge formalized it and said, no, she doesn't have visitation. It's just your guys' baby now. Right after that court hearing, Elizabeth, the one that was supposed to adopt the baby, went into judge's chambers, formally adopted the baby. So that, boom, now these are the two parents of record.
Okay.
And they relinquished her parental rights at that time, Mary Beth Whitehead. Then court overturned that in appeal and said that she could still have visitation. It wasn't right to take her rights away because courts didn't know what to do with the surrogacy idea because it was partially her baby. It wasn't as if it was their, just their sperm and egg. She contributed as well. And so this went on. And eventually, the Sterns were able to fully have the child and kind of were able to get Mary Beth out of their life, but it basically destroyed 2 marriages almost. The Whitehead, her husband, divorced her because I'm sure she was going nuts, trying to get back this baby. The Sterns were well documented that it was a really difficult time. And in 2004, the baby's grown up. In 2004, she did fully have her mom adopt her. Like she said, this is who I want on my record, the adoptive mom. So like there's no, going back or whatever. But
wow, so they must have told her at some point when
I
she
mean,
was
that's,
young.
1986 to 2004. I mean, they were dealing with that for a hot minute, like your whole child's life. You
Oh,
were
Oh my god.
not sure if it was yours or when it was going back. And I mean, there were multiple court cases about it. And part of it came down to they ended up suing the attorney that started the infertility center because they said the agreement wasn't clad enough. It wasn't clear enough about what was going to happen. Because part of Mary Beth's claim was that she didn't understand that she was fully relinquishing the child, that she was going to share custody, which is a wild kind of assertion in my opinion. But
Wasn't she going through an agency, you said? So they should have
well,
prepared
that's
her.
this infertility center. That's why ultimately the guy that started it got sued because they said you didn't make this clear enough or something, or the contract isn't ironclad enough to prevent all this court stuff because the courts hadn't caught up to where surrogacy was at the time. But it was a big court battle for many years. But the peak of it was 1987 after the child
I wonder
was
in
born.
some way, because Michelle Buteau, that comedian, she said at least a few years ago, New York still didn't allow surrogacy in like fully legally or something.
I don't think they do now.
Yeah.
I know Andy Cohen has 2 kids, and his surrogate for both of those kids was in California.
That's wild to me that New York doesn't allow
Yeah, he's
it.
talked about on a show, that they don't. And I wonder, it's probably related to how messy this got.
Yeah, what a mess and what a disappointing thing. I mean, really for everyone. It's kind of heartbreaking for everyone involved, but yeah, it was a landmark. That felt late to me. Like if you had told me when would like the landmark surrogacy case been, I would have guessed like 60s, 70s. I never would have gone like 1987. That doesn't feel long enough ago,
Man, think about her as she got older and she's reading about this. And obviously she'd been told, but to read the full details of it must be wild. Yeah.
Well, and when she did have visitation, I think Mary Beth maybe had some mental health struggles because when she did have visitation, she would send her back in onesies that say I have a brother and sister because she had her own kids. She was doing some really aggressive, predatory kind of things. Yeah. So really, yeah. I was shocked though. I was like, surely this has been made into a TV movie, and it has a Lifetime TV movie or something. But I'm kind of surprised it hasn't gotten more fodder. Been something more. Feels prime for Ryan Murphy, if I'm being honest.
It really does. We need Sarah Paulson on this stat.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got, Heath?
You know who wasn't white hot in 1987? He was just a regular levels of hot. That was Patrick Dempsey. Oh. And he was in a movie called Can't Buy Me Love.
I loved his messy little curly hair, though.
He was Ronald Miller. He's a high school nerd who pays his neighbor, who's a popular cheerleader named Cindy Mancini, $1,000 to pretend to be his girlfriend for a month. Because he'd spent the whole summer mowing lawns in Tucson, Arizona. Was going to use that money to buy a telescope.
It's not a lot of lawns in
Tucson.
That's
what I was going to say. That's why, I was like, I don't think the grass grows in Tucson, Arizona in the summertime. Yeah. I think it's...
it's a rock situation.
Right, yes, yeah. But he, instead he uses that money to pay his neighbor to like him because she ruined her mom's expensive suede outfit and needs the money to replace it. And so, the 2 points that I had about this were... you don't mow the lawns in Tucson, Arizona in the summer because the grass does not grow.
Sorry, I jumped all over that. My bad.
And Cindy wears the suede outfit to a Labor Day party.
Sure does.
And again, I feel like you would just sweat all of everything out of your body if you were wearing suede in Arizona.
Suede in Arizona Labor Day?
Right, early September. I feel like it would be very, very hot.
And isn't it like a glass of wine or something?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
And it should be noted too, which I had forgotten this, but Cindy's boyfriend Bobby, he was off attending the University of Iowa, so he was.
That's right.
He was, yeah. Iowa, we're famous, you guys.
We're so famous. I do remember in 1987 thinking, "Oh my God, they mentioned us. They mentioned Iowa."
Yeah.
I would think that would because Slater on Saved by the Bell was going to go to the University of Iowa on a wrestling scholarship.
Yes.
I remember when they brought that up too. It was like, God, we did it. We made it.
Somebody knows us. Yeah.
So over the course of that month, Cindy actually falls in love with Ronald, but Ronald turns pretty arrogant, as as happens with these nerds in these movies.
Goddamn nerds. Once they get a little power.
You paid someone to like you.
Yeah.
How did you get arrogant over that?
And Ronald says some pretty hurtful stuff during their very staged, very public breakup.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, Cindy gets jealous when Ronald is flirting with some of her friends. So Ronald takes one of Cindy's friends to a school dance where he performs the African anteater ritual. A dance he saw at an African cultural show on public television.
But he didn't know it was an African culture
Right.
show, right? He thought it was like dance show something. Yeah.
So again, should you be arrogant, Ronald? Maybe not. If you can't tell the difference between American Bandstand and Dance Party USA or whatever it was and PBS.
Yeah.
And since kids are dumb, they think the dance must be cool and popular because a cool and popular person is doing it, and everyone just think, yay, it's a dance. It
Teaches us about conformity.
Yep. Shortly after that, on Halloween, the school jocks test Ronald's loyalty by coercing him to throw shit at his friend Kenneth's house. Kenneth just happens to be one of Ronald's friends from his lawn mowing and telescope days. So Kenneth catches Ronald but lets him go before Kenneth's dad finds out and calls the police. So at a New Year's Eve party, these kids love having a party on a holiday. I'll tell you that.
Sure
Good
do.
for them, getting it together to throw a
Tucson
party.
knows how to party.
Get down, Tucson.
That's what I always think when I think of Tucson.
Yep.
New Year's Eve party, Cindy catches Ronald making out with a girl in the bathroom, and he's reciting a poem to this girl that Cindy thought was something that was special just between the two of them from their month together.
Oh no, Cindy.
So Cindy's pretty pissed, but she's not as pissed as her boyfriend Bobby, who has come home from Iowa for the holidays, and finds out how Cindy was renting herself out to Ronald. Bobby dumps Cindy, and I feel like Bobby should have better things to do than to go to a high schooler's New Year's Eve party
You'd think
as
so.
someone who's in college. But, I guess we wouldn't have this plot point if
No,
Bobby
and it's
had
also,
other things to do.
somehow it's showing that Iowa wasn't great enough to keep him there. Like he had to go back to a high school
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
That's not good. I don't like that.
Yeah, there's stuff in Iowa City. There's a Ped Mall, you guys.
There
You could
is.
have gone to the Ped Mall.
There's a lot going on.
The sports column. All sorts of things.
The Union?
Yeah.
You could have made out with a stranger there, Bobby.
I think he probably did, and then he came home.
Yeah, you did.
Yep. So Cindy gets wasted at this party, and she tells everybody the truth about her and Ronald, and then everyone hates Ronald, and he still doesn't have a telescope.
God damn it, Ronald. You fucked up.
A few days later at school, Ronald defends Kenneth when he's getting bullied by a jock and points out how stupid all these clicks are to everyone who's been watching this situation go down in the lunchroom, I believe is where it was. And then Ronald shows up at Cindy's house a few days later, which seems like it's not that big of a deal since they're neighbors.
Right.
But he does.
It is a big deal. Yeah.
And he does so on his riding lawnmower and wakes her up so he can pour his heart out to her. And if anyone ever wants to pour their heart out to me, don't wake my ass up with a lawnmower. 'Cause I
No.
will not be in a frame of mind to accept
No,
whatever
wait,
you
no,
are
I
trying
won't.
to
Wait,
share.
isn't that like a typical 80s guy move too? No regard for what you're doing, but now I'm here to profess my love and you must accept it.
Yes.
Like I was sleeping, fucker.
Yep.
This has been over for days. Why are we doing this now? God.
But, Ronald asked her to prom, which seems kind of early. We're out in the first of the year still, He asked her to prom, and she agrees, and they're right off into the sunset on his riding lawnmower. It's very sweet. Yep.
Ish.
And here's something I didn't know about this movie. Paula Abdul is credited as the choreographer for
What?
the African anteater ritual dance.
Is that a good thing? Did she put that on her resume?
I don't know. I was probably right after Laker Girl. Or maybe right before. And she actually is in the movie. She's one of the dancers in the scene.
Really?
So she is, yeah. And they also did the remake of it in 2003 under the name Love Don't Cost a Thing. And it starred Nick Cannon. And if you were wondering, he was an actor before he had 31 children. He just fathers children now.
I don't know if I knew there was a remake.
I didn't know that at all. Yeah, it doesn't seem like one that you should pull out and
No.
I was thinking at first when I started reading, thinking about this movie, what was the one with Patrick Dempsey where he was sleeping, he was delivering pizza and he slept with all those ladies?
Oh, that was I remember that. Was it Loverboy
I think that was it.
or something like that?
Yeah. And that's
Like older ladies too, right?
Yeah. I remember him bringing pizzas to Kirstie Alley and then they'd have
Yes.
sex.
Yeah, he was like, and at some point didn't like his mom catch him or something, or
I think, was he sleeping with some of her friends? And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
how they were talking about it.
Wow, what a weird movie that was.
Yeah.
But that was on all the time too.
Uh-huh.
Wow, we were doomed.
We were doomed.
Good movie.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I guess continuing my corporate America theme,
I love a theme. Love a theme.
I have a wild story that I never knew anything about. So in 1987, a brokerage house called E.F. Hutton did a really, really weird thing for its employees, and it involves crayons. So,
This is so vague at first. It's very
so Robert Foman ran E.F. Hutton, the brokerage house, for 16 years. And I think I remember that name from Secret of My Success. I think they mentioned it or something.
Didn't they have like a series of commercials in the 80s too? Or
Yeah.
was it
Like
someone
that name-
whispered E.F. Hutton or something like
Yes,
that?
that name I remembered very clearly. So Robert Foman hired and promoted whoever he wanted, including close friends. He personally reviewed the salaries and bonuses of more than 1,000 employees. Like a feudal lord, he went full Doge and didn't like budgets. He didn't like planning. He didn't like organization, even though he's running a company. There's a quote from a former managing director of E.F. Hutton that says, the CEO, his whole life was holding court, making all the large and small decisions. When Friday night at 6 o'clock rolled around, a tear would come down his cheek because he was wondering what the hell he was going to do till Monday. Outside of work.
He sounds like that Native American in the littering ad.
Yes!
Outside of work, he was the loneliest man who ever lived.
Oh, no.
Oh, shit.
Okay, so this guy's a great guy, right?
Sounds like a trip.
I bring all this up because in the 80s, some stuff came out about him. He was expensing party girls from escort services as temporary clerical and secretarial help.
I see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. From 1981 on, profits started slipping. And by 1986, the firm had lost $90 million.
Oh, no.
But at the same time, that year that it lost that money, it spent $30 million to send its best producing brokers and their wives on all expense paid trips. So they're real good at money management.
Wow.
This brokerage firm.
So it turns out the budgets do serve a purpose.
Yeah, right.
I should have called Michael J. Fox. Brantley.
You're right.
Brantley could
They
have
need a
solved
Brantley
this.
in this.
By 1986, the firm had pleaded guilty to 2,000 counts of mail and wire fraud because they were drawing funds from a check kiting scheme
Oh, Jesus.
where they were intentionally overdrawing the firm's checking accounts for a day or two to earn additional interest income. This was a brokerage firm that was advising people on money.
Like they were writing themselves checks and like depositing them, and so the balance would go up, and then when the check cleared with their own money, it was just somebody moving like money from one bucket to the other.
Yeah, this is some weird math that they were doing, and they got caught, and that was the mail and wire fraud. So 1986, a new guy takes over as president. They get Robert Foman out. And that's when someone had the brilliant idea to explain to existing employees what's been going on. Because existing employees are like, man, our company is losing money. They're in the courts, all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry C. Walsh.
Ooh.
You know what? We don't need to see. Jerry.
Jerry C. Walsh.
Yeah, Jerry, fuck yourself. I don't like you already. You're C. You're pretentious C. Jerry C. Walsh, because you don't think Jerry Walsh sounds like pompous enough.
Exactly. So Jerry was a senior executive VP for marketing and strategy.
Okay.
And he devised the idea of explaining to employees the issues in the future with a coloring book.
Oh, fuck.
In
Is his middle name Crayola?
In July 1987, the firm began distributing at a cost of $50,000 the Hutton Neighborhood Coloring Book and a box of crayons to its 18,000 workers. And I brought some visual aids.
Oh, my God. They had no checks and balances.
Oh, yeah, at least they got name brand crayons.
You only got 6 crayons? That's
only got
bullshit.
6. So the book tells of troubles in the E.F. Hutton neighborhood. There's a lemonade stand with sales just slumping. There's
90,000 lost in 1986. It's just like a nice banner on one of the pages.
There's rough times with kids like Merrill Lynch. The coloring book says we're no longer the nicest house on the block. We're not even close. In fact, we're in big trouble.
What is... I can't... My mind is not wrapping itself around this as a concept.
The book presents a vision of what can be, but only if employees do much more with much less.
It seems like spending a bunch of money on coloring books is not a good example of how to do much more with much less.
So Jerry, he says, a coloring book is a very simple and participatory means for different levels of people to all get the same message.
Jerry.
But the attempt at lifting spirits backfired.
What?
There was one executive that said, disgusting. We would prefer to think that management could communicate with us in an adult fashion.
Also, you're just inviting people to vandalize the shit out of a coloring book and post it everywhere.
So as you see in these visual aids, which we'll post because these are great.
Yeah, obviously.
The book includes a picture of young toughs wearing T-shirts labeled Sears and Schwab's cut rate cowboys, like you said, referring to competitors. However, what we don't see here, although we do see this in this racing thing, it all ends happily because the Hutton kids build a racing car and win the brokerage race by cutting costs and improving service.
Oh my God.
So what I love most about this is basically this coloring book is trying to give them insight into all this, but then saying it's on you now. You got to do more with less. We're not going to spend as much. We're not going to give you your bonuses. We're not going to do any of that stuff.
We're not going to take accountability for our bad choices.
Exactly. All on you guys. Soon after sending out the coloring book, E.F. Hutton was acquired by a rival and ceased to exist as an independent entity.
Oh my God. Did they send the agreement in a coloring book? We're taking over.
A company named Shearson took over. And after the takeover, Hutton's board voted itself more than $2.5 million in retirement benefits.
Oh, neat.
One guy alone got $1 million for a specific deal that he did. And what sucked, of course, is the employees got their coloring book. They also got totally shafted with this sale. Because of the way the board structured the company's profit sharing plan, they were not able to sell the Hutton shares that had been held for them in trust. And most of them walked away with little more than just unemployment checks.
Jesus.
The best part, maybe, is I read an interview in 1988 with Fortune magazine with the CEO. And the CEO, they paint him as like this guy. He's still just walking around real bullish and like, you know, like living like a feudal lord still. And he says, did I let the firm down? Did I let the employees down? No, I don't think so.
Well, you did right away with 6 crayons. How do you expect me to get a goddamn lesson with 6 crayons?
At least give more than 6.
I mean, if we spent $50,000 on the coloring book, I think we could spring for the 12, maybe even the 24.
Right.
So I laughed so hard when I found out that this existed and that this was a thing, but it also made absolute sense. I loved, too, that basically we didn't have to worry what happened in a marketing meeting because Jerry did it for us. We found out who came up with the idea and how and all the things.
But I feel like this also probably speaks to, you know, sometimes meetings are useful. Like maybe when someone says, I don't know, Jerry, maybe not the coloring books. I feel like that may land in a way we don't intend.
That's a good point. Maybe there was no meeting. It was just Jerry being like, this is brilliant. This is great. I'm not going to talk to anybody else.
On the racing page, too, it starts to say color this, which I assume is the path for their car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gave directions. It gave directions of where to color. So to E.F. Hutton, the employees are dumb dipshits. Just dummies.
They're not going to know where to color on that page.
Right.
Can you imagine the dinners of the artist that was having to draw that? Like, oh, I got this great new job. Like, I got hired by E.F. Hutton to do this new marketing thing. And just like, I knew you were going to do it, honey.
Good job, honey.
You've been working so hard. And I just knew someone was going to see your talent, Kevin. And then he goes in to E.F. Hutton and they're like, this is what we're doing. We're doing a coloring book for them. And he just, the soul leaves his body.
Yeah.
And he's like, this
oh, no.
Mm-hmm. And every night he goes home over his meatloaf and Brussels sprouts and is like, No, it's going great. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's going really good. I feel really fulfilled, and I think it's going to be a real boost to my whole career. I'm going to put it on everything, my resume everywhere.
I
And
wonder
she's
if
like,
Kevin even got his check because they
No.
went out of business.
No, Kevin is the grandpa in Willy Wonka. And he's just in the
no.
bed.
That's the backstory.
Ooh. All right. Well, speaking of wholesome endeavors,
Ooh.
a little show premiered in 1987 that unfortunately I'm very familiar with, called Full House.
Oh, boy.
This show, which debuted in 1987, was written by Jeff Franklin for ABC, was the parent company that had that. And it featured the recently widowed father, Danny Tanner, who enlists his brother-in-law, Jesse, and childhood best friend, Joey, to help raise his 3 daughters. Because nothing screams, I've got this as a dad, besides bringing 2 men in to raise your 3 daughters, but sure.
3 men living in a house in San Francisco raising some kids.
Yeah.
Before its time.
It was a throuple before we really talked about thruples.
It was. The 3 daughters were DJ, Stephanie, and Michelle. It aired from September 1987 to May 23rd, 1995, with a total of 8 seasons consisting of 192 episodes, which seemed like a lot to me.
And did you watch every episode?
I feel like I must have.
Yeah.
But then I also think I must have fallen off somewhere because I sort of remember early ones and I sort of remember later ones, but there's some in the middle that I was like, I don't know what was happening.
Yeah.
Like maybe I tuned in for the final season or something once I knew it was going off air. But there was they had a little bit of issues with casting at first because, as we know, Bob Saget played Danny Turner. And that's who the producers wanted from the beginning. But he was already in a show and completing a show during the time they wanted to shoot the pilot. So they shot the pilot with an actor named John Posey. And he's only appeared in that pilot episode. That pilot episode never aired. They just used it like in-house to see if they thought it was working. But it's included in the DVD release of season 1.
Oh, my gosh.
Which is kind of crazy to me that they would ever include it anywhere.
Right.
But
have you seen it?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any of the DVDs or anything.
You don't have the Full House DVDs?
No, I don't.
What kind of fan are you?
I'm sorry. I think what happened is I misled you. I watched it. I don't think I was a huge fan. Like, I wasn't like, I need to have these Full House memorabilia immediately. If I'm being honest, I was a bigger fan of Bob Saget on America's Funniest Home Videos than I was on.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So John Stamos' character played Jesse. That was one that he convinced the producers to change his character's surname because it was supposed to be Jesse Cochran, and he wanted it to better reflect his Greek heritage. So he changed it to Katsalopoulos.
Oh,
yeah.
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 Okay.
And then to comply with child labor laws, twins Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen were cast to alternate in the role of Michelle during tapings. And their name was credited on the show as Mary Kate Ashley Olsen, as if it was one, because in seasons 2 through 7, the producers did not want audiences to know that Michelle was played by 2 different. They wanted everyone to think it was the same. I don't know what purpose that serves, but yeah.
Because we all found out.
I know. I was going to say that's
like,
a really horribly kept secret. Like, they also did occasionally appear together in fantasy sequences on the show. Like both of the twins would be in it, but that was one of the things they say is unique about Full House is that you actually kind of watched a child grow all the way through because they started when they were so young and then,
And then we saw what happened after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild. Apparently also their mother, Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen's mother, complained all the time on set because Bob Saget had such a dirty mouth. And she would be like, please stop swearing in front of my babies. That's how I imagine she said it. I don't have any recording.
That has to be her accent, for sure. Yeah.
Because I remember that came out because he had some pretty edgy stand-up, Bob Saget did. I remember when that came out because his introduction to the world seemingly so wholesome as Danny Turner. And then it was like, what?
Well,
Bob
wasn't
Saget?
there a movie, The Aristocrats or something like that, where he apparently stole the show with his wildly dirty joke? I never saw it.
I think the gist of the movie was a bunch of comedians told the same joke, and it was like everyone kind of had their own style, but it was a very dirty joke.
Yeah.
And his like you said, he kind of stole the show in that.
Chelsea, that sounds like a bad movie. I don't want to hear the same joke over and over again.
No, that sounds terrible. So Jodie Sweetin, who played Stephanie, the middle child, she was spotted on a guest spot on the show Valerie. And they said, we want her to bring her in. Lori Loughlin was hired in 1988 for a 6-episode romance plot with Uncle Jesse, but they ended up testing so well with audiences that they kept her to the end of the show. I'm assuming because she made Uncle Jesse just slightly less douchey.
Yeah, probably.
Just like a tick.
Yeah.
So all 7 of the original cast members remained with the show through its entire 8-year run. And there was 5 characters added to the main cast along the way. DJ's best friend, Kimmy Gibbler, which was played by Andrea Barber, one of my favorites.
She's an American treasure.
She is, yeah. Lori Loughlin's character, Rebecca Donaldson, and then DJ's boyfriend at one point was they considered regular, but that was towards the end. Scott.
He was the voice
Steve
of
Hale.
Aladdin too.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and towards the end of it, like Jesse and Rebecca get married. They have twins. Like there was a lot of things happening with the plot. But it also had a remake that came out on Netflix called Fuller House that lasted for a while. I never saw it, so I can't speak
Did it
to
have
that
any
at all.
of the adults, or was it just the kids?
Didn't it have?
I think the kids were all in it. Mary-Kate and Ashley were not, but
Okay.
DJ and Stephanie and Gibbler were in it. And I think some of the adults popped in once in a while.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they were not series regulars.
And since then, there's some stuff that's come out about Candace Brew.
Cameron Bure, who's
Bure.
I think she might be an asshole. I think she's an asshole.
Oh, she's like a super right wing conservative.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Is she like her brother with the crazy Left Behind thing?
Yes,
Okay, all right,
yes, yeah, very much
cool.
so.
The whole family sucks.
Mhm. And her most recent claim to fame, I do believe, was the tuna fish commercials where tuna fish comes in a little packet instead of the can.
Mm-hmm.
Good for her.
So nailed that.
She was the one. She doesn't make movies for Hallmark Channel anymore because Hallmark started telling more inclusive stories with same-sex relationships in them. So
Great line to draw.
So she said, "See ya," and they said, "Yeah, fine."
Yeah, they're like, we got plenty of others.
Your writer is ridiculous. Yeah, we're good. We're money ahead.
You wanted us to bring the full set of Left Behind books?
Yeah.
No, thanks.
No, we're good. Also, we're done serving tuna. It's getting weird. Yeah, so that was, I remember that show. I remember watching the show, but I wouldn't say it was like one of my faves, but I know that it was an acceptable show I was allowed to watch. So,
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
so I saw more of it.
And Dave Coulier, who played
Yes.
Uncle Joey, he's the subject of Alanis Morissette's "You Ought to Know."
Yes. Yeah.
Which made him slightly cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did make it seem like he had an edgierness to
Yes.
him somehow, because
they were just...
he was very one-dimensional on the show, and
Yeah,
that
for
just
sure.
you couldn't picture the actor as any different. And then
He was not white hot.
He was,
no,
John Stamos was pretty hot for a while.
he was hot, yeah. But even I don't know, maybe it was because of the roles they played. It was like I never really thought of any of them as like heartthrobs.
No,
like,
because it was so very much the sitcom dads kind
yeah,
of thing.
it was, very much that way.
Yeah. I do remember when John Stamos cut his mullet. Like that was kind of a thing.
Yes.
There was a little bit of
yeah.
not like to the level of like the Felicity show that got canceled because the woman cut her hair, but still, like people were just like, I can't deal with this
I loved that
non-mullet.
show. Anyway, Full House.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent television.
Yes.
Yeah.
Television, I will agree.
I hope when people see the Olsen twins walking around, I assume they live in New York City, but I hope when people see them walking around, they just go, "You got it, dude." They just yell shit like that at him.
They don't want anything to do with that.
Deeply, deeply messed up by their time on
Very
TV.
much so.
Which makes me feel I keep waiting for like the big expose on Full House because,
Right.
but maybe it had more to do with Mom if she was losing her biscuits
Well,
all
or
the
maybe
time
it
on
had
set.
to do with like because after Full House they were pumping out content.
That's
yep.
true. They were
Tons
little
of, like,
workhorses. Good point.
Tons of like direct to
yeah,
VHS
they had all the
and
DVDs and the
yes.
shows and the books and the they had
I imagine
everything.
it was that was
Quite
way
the
more
empire.
like
Yeah.
because they were probably not really protected anymore because they were money makers.
Mhm.
And then the last I saw them is they both wear really big coats,
Uh-huh.
and one like married a guy that's like twice her age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They smoke a lot, I think.
They're like the big coats that make them look Like they're just swimming in them.
Yeah.
Like they're standing on someone's shoulders.
Like they
to,
do
make
not
a
want
full-
anything about their body to be seen. That's what I always think
Right.
about their
Which-
clothes. Yeah.
I imagine that's trauma. So,
Yeah,
that's
that's
fine.
fine. Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And listen, they can hate Full House all they want to. Full House paid for those big coats.
Sure did.
Those big coats and those cigs they like
Yeah,
to smoke.
that's
They got
true.
that full house money. Yeah.
Full House money.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What's your last one, Heath?
My last one is a movie,
Movie
which
film?
I would call one of the great films of 1987.
Oh, my.
And it's called Overboard.
That was my third pick. That was
yeah.
literally the other movie I had written down.
I've, again, seen it so many
Yes.
It doesn't hold up, but it was great. I loved it.
In the movie, Goldie Hawn is Joanna Staten. She's a wealthy socialite who hires Dean Prophet, who's played by Kurt Russell, to remodel a closet on her yacht while her and her husband are vacationing off the coast of Oregon. We don't really know why they're in Oregon. They're just off the coast of Oregon near a town called Elk Cove, where Dean and his 4 children live. After he finishes the work on her closet, Joanna's pissed because Dean used oak instead of cedar. And who hasn't made that mistake?
My God.
Right?
I mean, not that I'm defending her because she's an awful person, but it is weird to make a closet out of oak and not cedar. But okay.
Okay. We got the hot take from the construction industry.
I mean, you want a cedar closet more than an oak closet, but okay.
Dean says he'll redo the closet if she pays him for the work he's already completed, but she won't. And after arguing, she throws his tools and him into the ocean off the coast of Oregon. When Dean gets home, the principal of his son's school's there, and she's got an update for him, and that is that he is a shitty parent. And if he doesn't start doing a better job disciplining his kids, she's going to call social services. So, Dean had a bad day.
All the way around, yeah.
That same night, Joanna's on the deck of her yacht looking for her wedding ring when she had taken off to apply some lotions or something or sunscreen earlier in the day. And
creams.
she falls overboard and is found in the water by a garbage boat who's just collecting garbage and this rich old lady. Or rich, not old, this rich lady. And boat takes her to the hospital where it's discovered that she has amnesia.
Convenient.
Yep. Her husband, who's still on the boat, finds out what has happened and takes off ASAP because his only interest in Joanna was for her money. And Dean found out, and as Dean and the rest of us found out earlier, she's kind of an a-hole.
Yep. Yeah, not great.
When Dean finds out that she has amnesia, he goes to the hospital and says she's his wife, so he can bring her home and make her work off the money that she owes him. And since, as we've mentioned before, we've established she's an a-hole, the hospital is more than happy to see her.
We don't need proof. It's fine. Take her.
Yeah, they don't ask a lot of questions. They're just like, oh, she's leaving? Okay, bye-bye.
Great.
As a side note, I feel like a lot of 80s movies used amnesia as a plot
Yes.
point because I
Yes.
was afraid of getting
Oh, yeah.
amnesia.
Yes.
I was like, if
was
I fall, I
everywhere.
will lose my entire life.
Amnesia and quicksand and starting on fire were things as a children we were
You're
told
right,
constantly.
quicksand. I was
We had to
terrified
look
of
out for.
quicksand.
I thought anytime you went on a hike, you were at risk of falling into
Yes.
quicksand.
Uh-huh.
And nary a day in my adult life
Have
have
I
I had to
happened to
worry
fall
about any of those.
Quicksand or amnesia,
Uh-huh.
even when I wanted it.
or setting myself on fire.
No.
Listeners, if this is our last episode because we all fell in quicksand, we are sorry for the hubris.
You're
We
right.
had it coming.
We're inviting it now. Oh my
We're
god.
all going to be on a walk. One of us going to get amnesia. One of us is going to get in quicksand. It's like Berenstain Bears. And one of us is going to be lit on fire.
But then we'll all come back and we'll record our experiences somehow, and it'll be great.
Yeah.
It'll be wonderful.
We'll turn this whole podcast to be a PSA for no, really. But as it happened yet, it's gonna happen.
That's the thing that's going to shoot us into the stratosphere of the podcast charts.
Just one of us having amnesia and be like, I don't know why I'm here. Who are you people? Why are we talking about this? I didn't bring any notes. What are you talking about?
Who are you?
Why did you
What is
send me a
Overboard?
text?
What are these movies?
But I don't know, this is great. I don't know, this seems poetic to me, though. She doesn't remember anything about herself, but she remembers how to be an asshole.
Sure does.
She does remember that. So,
Which shows nature versus nurture, right?
Uh-huh.
She is born an asshole.
Yep.
Born and bred.
So, of course, Joanna goes back to Dean's house. She's totally out of her element because he's being a jerk. His kids are jerks. She's an a-hole. And no one really seems hung up on the fact that this is kidnapping. Like, she's been kidnapped.
Yep. Yeah, we don't worry
Yeah.
about that.
Right. Joanna eventually figures out how to make that household work, though. as moms do, as women do, you know. She gets the kids back on track with the schoolwork. She gets the household finances under control. She even gets Dean to be a more responsible father.
Because she's a lady.
Yep.
And we all have it in us, apparently.
And you got to bear that emotional burden even if they're not your kids and you got kidnapped out of a hospital and have amnesia.
Is that a country song? Did Reba sing that?
Yeah, it is a Reba. It's on the Greatest Hits Volume 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
it's one of
All
her
right.
faves. It's a lesser known.
Yeah.
It's like the third verse of the I'm a Survivor song from
Yes,
her sitcom.
yeah. Yeah, you got to bear the brunt of all the kids. Whether or not they came from you.
That's it. That's it.
Mhm.
So, and as with any burgeoning relationship, you know it's getting real when you design a mini golf course together. Like that's a milestone in any relationship.
That's
I
you
mean,
made
question.
it.
You guys have been married now for what, 16 years?
Yes, that's
When's that going to happen?
I feel like year 18 or 19, probably.
Okay, that's when you and Michael
Yeah.
will do it. Great.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
And it's starting to, this whole relationship is starting to feel real to Dean, too. He's falling in love with her, and he's afraid to tell her who she really is because he thinks she'll leave.
Good
And
advice.
that's sweet, but it's still kidnapping. She should leave.
Yep. Yeah, baby. Yep.
Yeah.
That's valid.
Yeah.
A valid fear.
So about 4 months goes by. Joanna's mother comes looking for her because she doesn't believe her husband when he says that she's just disappeared.
And the mother, by the way,
Yeah.
resplendent in her various rich
Yeah.
lady outfits.
She was Mona from Who's the Boss.
Mm-hmm.
When the mom and the husband show up, Joanna remembers who she is, and she's pissed because she's figured out that Dean now has been lying to her. Like, just seeing those two sort of makes something click in her brain. So now she's back on the yacht. She realizes that her mom and her husband are a-holes, and that she used to be an a-hole, and that she'd rather be with Dean and his gross kids. So,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm not sure that would have been the path for me. I would have just maybe
No.
got my own boat or a different boat away from those other a-holes.
Yeah, I think there's different ways to not be an a-hole than to return to your kidnapper. But Stockholm syndrome.
Right. Her husband, Joanna's husband, doesn't like that one bit because if Joanna leaves, then he's broke. So the husband tries to take over the boat, but it's about that time that Dean and the kids and the Coast Guard show up to ask Joanna to forgive him. And they're just about to Joanna's yacht when they get a call that they have to go after some salmon poachers, so they turn the Coast Guard's boat around. And Dean does the only thing that he can do since he can't kidnap her again. He jumps off the boat and swims to Joanna. And when she sees him do that, she jumps off her yacht and they make out at sea,
Katerina
aka
and Arturo.
the toilet of fish.
That's a good point.
Uh-huh.
Toilet of fish.
Once they get back on board the Coast Guard's boat, Joanna tells Dean that the money is hers. And when he asks what he could possibly give her that she doesn't already have, she tells him a little girl.
And that was peak romance.
Yes. And I would just like to point out that in my experience, I think you should get to know your former kidnapper a little better before you ask them to get you pregnant.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not here to make your life choices for you. You do what you see fit. That's just my 2 cents. The movie was a pretty big hit and has been remade several times. It has been remade in India and South Korea, as well as a 2018 American remake starring Anna Faris, where she's the kidnapper, because I guess that's less disturbing if the woman is technically holding the man against his will.
Okay.
And my favorite line from the movie, I'm a short, fat slut. Because he has to doctor a bunch of pictures when he takes her from the hospital, and all the pictures he has are just her after she was rescued from sea. So she just looks exhausted and tired, and he just puts her head on all these photos of a woman with a different body type.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Short, fat, slut.
And even as a kid, knowing that those two were really together, I thought that was kind of fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the director of this movie was Gary Marshall, who also directed Pretty Woman.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of, I think, some of his lane might be like taking situations that in real life would be pretty horrible.
Yeah.
And sort of, kind of making them seem nicer.
Romanticizing them.
Right,
Uh-huh.
romanticizing
I mean, you might
them.
get kidnapped, but you could also find your hubby.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess that was on message for the 80s, because wasn't there a plot line in like one of the soap operas that Luke and Laura, like Luke raped Laura and then they fell in love and got married? And was it General Hospital?
Yep.
But that was romance. You can fall in love with your rapist. You don't even need amnesia.
But just imagine, like, if they stay together, let's say they stay together, and, like, 5 years later they meet someone new, and they're like, oh, how'd you guys meet? Well.
You're going to love this.
You're going to like this.
I fell
Who
off a
hasn't
boat.
had this?
Yeah. Not the traditional way, let me just say.
Of the top 3 things, I had the amnesia. Not the quicksand, not the fire.
Nope.
Amnesia.
Also, I feel like when people ask that question, I don't know about you guys, but if you ask, I usually don't ask that question, but let's just say I got tricked into asking that question. It was like, how'd you guys meet? I actually don't ever want to know the story. Like, as someone's right away, like, oh, you're going to love this. I'm like, I'm not.
No,
Never
I'm not.
mind.
No.
I shouldn't have asked. Like, nothing is as cuter to the couple as it is to anyone else what your, like, meeting story is. It's just not.
Unless we know the 2 people very well, and we found out that Michael ditched Heath for a yarn store on their first date.
Well, that is just fascinating.
That is
first
wonderful.
date information I'm all about. But
All
like,
about it.
How did the initial meet?
Yeah.
No, I don't need to
Right.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, now if Michael kidnapped you out of a hospital room,
Yeah.
I do kind of want to know that.
Did he?
No.
Oh.
No. I don't think he's organized enough for that.
Good point. Good point. You would be the kidnapper in that
Right.
scenario.
He'd be
Yeah.
way too
Yeah.
recognizable.
He'd
So
probably
many
take
people
the
would be like,
he'd take the
"What are
wrong
you doing
person.
here?"
Uh-huh.
You're right. People would clock him the minute he walked out.
Yeah. Also, I feel like something about your internal structure would just not allow you to have amnesia. You'd be like,
Yeah.
that's not true, actually.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering it now that we're walking
Yeah.
down the hall and I do not know you. And I would like to go back to my
Or
hospital
you
room.
would trust your instincts, be like, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah, this is
Nope.
very suspect. I'm not going anywhere with this.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything, but I know not to go to a second location.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Well done.
7.
Fuzzy Memories is a Broads and Books production. It's hosted by Heath Smith, Aaron Johnston, and Amy Lee Lillard. Big thanks to our supporters on Patreon, especially those at the Make Me Famous level, including Haley Scarpino, Nick Thornton, Daniela Barzalo, Matthew Serback, and Last Name Greatest. Sign up at our Patreon for bonuses and new stuff. And be sure to follow us at Fuzzy Memories Pod on Instagram for clips and highlights. See you next time.
You should
you're
do
right.
that. You should don't send your computer back to your old job. Log in and just create a new persona and see how long you can sort of be. Just say you're like the vice president of something or other, and just
Yeah. Maybe I should assume the other Amy Lillard's identity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the other Amy Lillard writes Amish romance,
Sure
right? Do you
does.
know what I found out about the Amish yesterday?
Mm.
What?
That apparently they really are into puppy mills. Like they're super into it. Like they have no issues with how it's inhumane for these dogs. They're big puppy mill fans.
And aren't they like the biggest producers of puppy mills?
Really?
Uh-huh. I bet that isn't in.
No. Nobody's like the heroine in Amy Lillard's Amish romance doesn't work at a puppy mill.
Yeah.
Like she didn't meet Zacchaeus in the break room at the puppy mill.
In the book Love for Nadine, they didn't include a puppy mill in it.
Gross.
There was a book, something for Nadine. Like
What was the email she sent you one time? Didn't she contact you?
Yeah, she did. It was
Nadine or Amy Lillard?
Both.
both. She said, "Oh, hey, I just discovered you, and I think people are getting confused between our works." And I'm like, "Yeah, well."
I mean, until they read like two
until they
sentences.
read- yep. And then some of them leave bad reviews on Goodreads because they think apparently I changed from Amish romance. They're like depressing short stories. This is weird.
Oh, wow. Where's the romance and the hot, long skirts and dresses?
The glimpse of an ankle.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
A whisper of an ankle.
Yes. Ooh, whisper of an ankle. You could write these. You could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably set out to do it sarcastically and then it'd
Get
be
real
like
into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Be like, oh, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for your Amish romance.